Sir James, where were you born and where did you grow up?
I was born in Kilwinning in Ayrshire and spent most of my formative years in the East Ayrshire town of Cumnock. So I lived there until I left school when I was 18.
And what inspired you to be a composer?
Well, I think I wanted to be a composer from day one. Our music teacher brought in a bag of little plastic recorders, the kind of thing that happens in most British schools, and the desire to write music came almost simultaneously with being given a little recorder. I wanted to create music from scratch right from the beginning.
And how did this piece come about, Tryst?
I moved back to Scotland. I was away for a little while in the late 1980s, and the Scottish Chamber Orchestra picked up on me quite quickly when I came back and asked me to write this piece for the St Magnus Festival in 1989. And this orchestra premiered it at the festival, and there are still players in the orchestra today who played in that first performance. It's a tricky little moment there. So just before we get the new theme, digga, 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 it's a 5/16 before, which is 3 plus 2. It was the first significant and important orchestral piece of mine.
So what's Tryst all about?
Well, Tryst or Tryst, there's no right way of saying this word, is an old Scottish, basically Anglo-Saxon word meaning a meeting place. And there's this wonderful poem by William Souter called the Tryst or the Tryst, which I set to music before this orchestral piece. I used to sing and play in folk bands around about the west of Scotland when I was much younger, and I wrote this song, set this poem, to make it sound as if it was an old Scottish ballad. The melody has lived with me for many years, and it's become the building blocks of a number of pieces, and this was the first one. So in the central section, the slow section of this piece, I take the melody, which I wrote to the William Souter poem, and stretch it and elongate it and make it work in different ways for all the different instruments. But I took the idea of the Tryst or Tryst as a meeting place for me of all the kind of musics that I love, so that there are little nods in the direction of other, maybe non-classical styles, as well as folk music. There's a nod in the direction of jazz, or at least big band music. I used to love the music of Stan Kenton when I was a youngster, and there's one section in particular that I think evokes that big band world, and there's even a quasi-saxophone solo played in the bass clarinet, of course. So in a sense, it's a meeting place of all these different musical strands, if you like, coming together in this one piece of orchestral music.
Take us back to that first performance of this, with this orchestra in Orkney. How did it feel hearing your ideas come to life for the first time?
Well, it was a very important moment for me, quite a young composer, not quite turned 30 at the time, to hear one of my first serious essays in orchestral music played by a wonderful orchestra. That was a very important day for me. It's always thrilling, and 30 years later, the process is still thrilling.